final exam because it's part of their expectations to do that. But the good news is that it's exactly the same as your quizzes. Exactly the same. Take home. Write brief essays because, like I said, I don't really believe in multiple choice. They are just memorization. It's not the kind of learning that I think that it's the best. I think that when you are research answers, for something and, look for outside of the book and, other sources, that's the best kind of learning. You learn to research and whatever. And so there are last essay, the final exam is really for this last 3 chapters only. But I can tell you a little secret because you are such a great group of folks. I did not include chapter 18 at all. And so, it's really just chapter 17, 16 and 17. And I put a heavy focus on the global human resource management because, that's important for you guys. At the end of the day, all of the chapters are important, but for most of you, you are all international people for the most part. And, I think global HR is what is important for all of us. So I focused the questions on that. And so you have between now and the end of the year, December 30th, to complete it, and also everything else that you haven't completed yet. I'm not going to penalize anybody for being late because everybody has busy lives. So I will right after the 30th, I will grade everything and submit your final grades. And of course I'll try to catch up and grade whatever I can next week. But last few days I haven't been able to be in a computer a lot because, Christmas preparations and things like that. Busy week. Everywhere you go out here, traffic is so bad, it takes you double the time. So it's been crazy week. So do you have any questions about that? Today is our final
So
lecture.
again,
Yeah, go ahead.
Daniel,
Yep.
final exam is the coverage of our final exam is mostly is in the global HR.
Yes, exactly. I can tell you in all honesty, again, I'm trying to help you to be successful. So one question is from chapter 16, and that's safety and risk. And then all other questions are from global HR. So it narrows the topic for you. It's really one chapter, but it's just like I said in the beginning of that, it is the most important chapter in a book for you because we are international folks here. So that makes it easy, but I would hope that you would go outside of the book and, feel free to share your own, experiences and feelings in those answers too, because, it's talking about expatriates and different kinds of staffing, options in international global companies. And I just felt like that's important for you guys. So that's why I just made it kind of simple rather than comprehensive covering the whole book because, it's 18 chapters. I don't want you to need to read all of them again. So that's it. And today we'll
Thank you,
talk about,
Tammy.
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
That's a good Christmas gift for us.
right. Yeah, look, I'm not even really a big fan of final exams. It's, examinations have become sort of and have traditionally a kind of like important part of, education, but it wouldn't necessarily need to be that way. There are ways to do what is called authentic assessment, which is really just for case studies and those type of things. So, it's a shame that we have to do assessment in education because sometimes people get test anxiety, which is why I don't want to, put time limits and those kinds of things. Because in a real world, you have your resources. You are able to go to library. You're able to, go to internet and research any kind of situation. And so I just think that things should be as real world as possible. So, and you are really good students and really good group of people. So I don't want to be, trying to catch you for not knowing kind of a thing. So,
Bravo.
yep. And so today we'll talk about something that is a variation of everything else in a way. The reality of it is that most businesses out there. I mean, in United States, and I think that pretty much everywhere, are not, your big corporations like Apple and Amazon or IBM or Nokia or Philips or, just, any global companies. They are, mostly companies are small, 80% of American economy is companies of less than 20 people. It's stunning. Or less than 100 people, so maybe not less than 20, but small businesses, essentially the very, very high majority of companies are, would be considered small businesses. And, entrepreneurship is something that is around the world an important part of. In a matter of fact, I have a doctoral student that I'm working with who is writing his dissertation on immigration, for Haiti, and he's from Haiti, and so he's writing about the impact of Haitian immigrants, entrepreneurs in Florida, in southern Florida, and so across the United States and maybe in other countries too. I mean, you all know United States is a country of immigrants, and everything over here is based on entrepreneurship. People from around the world came over here, start their own businesses, trying to chase the so-called American dream, and so we are really a society based on this idea of small companies and entrepreneurship. And so I thought that it's kind of it's important to talk about just HR, because lots of things that we've talked about in this class, HR, small companies kind of don't do the same way, because they don't have the resources, and because they have to do things in what is called agile. These days, everything is agile. Agile just means kind of a flexible, kind of a fast, flexible, kind of a action research kind of a way. So everything is agile these days. But it's important to talk about that. There's nothing small about small business. I mean, it's I posted yesterday, what's this guy now? I can't remember right now. Ballmer, Steve Ballmer. So I found 1984 video clip of Steve Ballmer, who is now worth like $170 billion. I mean, this guy is super rich right now. I mean, 170 billion. I mean, that's a lot of freaking money. And so, of course, he was the number 2 guy with Bill Gates in starting Microsoft. And there was a video of 1984 when he was selling Windows 1.0. And I mean, he had this crazy looking suit on, and he was sounding like one of those info commercials on TV, like, well, buy this, and I mean, today only $99 kind of a thing. I mean, really just crazy. And I posted in my Facebook and just saying that this is a good reminder for us all that never laugh at anybody, no matter how ridiculous and stupid they sound. Because, I mean, here is Steve Ballmer in 1984. I mean, really looking like there's no way I would buy anything from this guy. And now he's a multi-billionaire. More than, I don't even what they call somebody who has 170 billion. I mean, that's more than multi-billionaire. But the point is that every company starts as a small company. A lot of the legendary companies, Apple, IBM, Microsoft, started in somebody's basement or somebody's garage. So there's nothing small about small business. All businesses grow, and they all have to start from somewhere. And so you gotta never laugh at somebody when they're trying to start their own business, because they could become huge. And the statistics, they say that 70% of new businesses fail. That's not really necessarily correct. Statistics is something that, I mean, people can lie with statistics. You can take any kind of statistics and you can represent it any kind of way you want to, depending on who you're trying to convince. And so if you want to be a business consultant, you say you need to hire me, you could say 70% of new businesses fail within the first year, but those 30% that do succeed, and 90% of those succeed because they've tried it before, so they gain some experience, or they hired a consultant to do it. Well, that's somewhat true, maybe in some aspects if you really just look at the statistics. But one thing that people forget is that many small businesses, they grow and move on and change so fast that if you're looking at, somebody starts a business and they think that this is a good business model, after 1 year, they are still on business, but they are on a completely different business. So if you're looking at that 70% fail on that original business idea, yeah, perhaps, but that doesn't mean that the entrepreneur actually failed. They just kind of moved on, because entrepreneurship is kind of like jumping off the cliff and trying to build your airplane in the air while you're, before you hit the ground. You know what I'm saying? That you are trying to prevent from hitting the ground and building your airplane so that you can take off. It's that kind of a, leap of faith, leap of courage. And entrepreneurs, they often do whatever it takes to be successful. And the business after 1 year may be very different than it was beginning of the year. So that's one reason why it's a little bit difficult to talk about survival or businesses failing, because businesses change so much that they are not the same business after 1 year in some cases. And the other thing is that many entrepreneurs, they start businesses with a very clear exit strategy. So their goal is to build a business and sell it to somebody. So there are many entrepreneurs who start businesses and by the end of the year they sold it to somebody else. Now 1 year would be surprisingly fast turnaround. Typically exit strategy would be like 5 years to 10 years. But the point is that small businesses, many entrepreneurs start small businesses with the clear intent of exiting out of it and selling the business to somebody else. And so all I'm saying is that don't let the statistics scare you if you are wanting to start a small business, because they can be read from many different ways, many different sort of perspectives. And so, so how is HR, human resource management, different in small businesses? Where of course size. You have you don't really have a human resources department with all of these experts and specialists. So you're gonna have to have HR generalist and not HR specialist for every single function of HR. And in human resource management, it's kind of like generalist is higher and more difficult and more experienced role than a specialist. So you become specialist first and then generalist, which is kind of opposite what it is in many other aspects of life. So and priorities in small business may be very different. You don't have sort of union issues and things like that. Labor relations may not be as big of an issue because you have a small group of people. It's more intimate. And you have to do a much more of a job rotation and other kinds of things, to make sure that all bases are covered if somebody gets sick or whatever. So there's a very different environment about it. And of course, in small business, it's a matter of survival. And in a matter of fact, HR is kind of, there are lots of things that small businesses do that maybe traditionally speaking would not be completely 100% by the book, or sometimes even completely legal, to say it that way. Small businesses do stretch the envelope in terms of using, contractors versus employees, and the overtime and a lot of those kinds of things and benefits and everything. Many times are let's just say that people put in a lot of sweat equity in small businesses. They do volunteering, they do work that technically in a smaller company they should get paid for, but they sort of have a handshake agreement with the owner that I do this for you, and you keep me on board and you promote me or whatever. So there's a lot more of that kind of that would be considered nepotism, I guess, in larger business, and maybe not technically completely by the book, but that's a sort of flexibility, matter of survival kind of a thing. The formality of that and the structure and strict compliance to laws and everything kind of comes a little bit later. So that sort of means that there is always small legal risk in small businesses, because of the fact that tend to do things sort of in a flexible way. There are many examples, hiring, illegal immigrants to save money. Not, if you look at like Chinese restaurants, how do Chinese restaurants get away with just hiring Chinese people? I mean, and nobody really worries about that. It's because everybody understands that, I mean, Chinese folks, they, family oriented, they help their own people, and it's not a requirement to have a Chinese person in a Chinese restaurant, but obviously we're going to expect that. So it's kind of there's a legal risk, but at the same time, lawyers don't go after entrepreneurial firms because, if they're corporated or LLCs, there's no legal risk to the owner. There's protection, and if the company is new and they're barely making it, there's no point of suing them because, like they said, you cannot squeeze blood from a rock. And so there's no point of trying to get money out of suing somebody, for small things like that, because there's no benefit. Nobody can pay any money. So slow decisions and overwhelmed managers. Small businesses, interestingly, decision making is sometimes slow. I mean, I can tell you from experience, and maybe some of you can relate to that. I have for the last year for entrepreneurial company. We are starting a sports university academy, preparatory academy. And I mean, sometimes decision making is very slow because the CEO is so inundated with multiple tasks and things and priorities that to wait for him to get to the issue that you want to get a decision for may take 2-3 weeks. And I get frustrated sometimes myself as a chief operating officer because I have 10 things that I want to move forward, but I can't because I need to wait for my business partner CEO to, give his input. So it's just typical. And ironically, small businesses are slower moving than big businesses, which you think that would be exactly the opposite. Paperwork is time consuming, and there's duplication and there's data entry errors and things like that. And because when you think about it, if you are a chef, if you are somebody who likes cooking a lot, and so you have always dreamed of opening a restaurant, and now you go and you open a restaurant, so you start growing a little bit, and then you start hiring staff, and so you hire some hostesses, hosts, waiters, bartender, somebody, chefs to help you in a kitchen. So pretty soon, you find yourself in an office doing paperwork. Well, the problem is that, you started a restaurant because you were a good chef and you knew how to cook really well. Now you find yourself in a back office doing payroll and all of that stuff. So, then you say, okay, well, I really need to get back to the kitchen. So you go to your wife and say, hey, would you help out with the business? And why don't you go to back room and handle the payroll and paperwork and stuff so that I can, concentrate on the kitchen because that's my job, and so, then the wife is like, okay, of course I'll help with the family business, but, I don't have HR background either. So, things get kind of clunky, because things start that way. Family helps, friends help, you hire people that rather than people who have the best experience on it. And so, you kind of have a competitive kind of a disadvantage because, other companies, they can hire experienced HR people and you are just running with family power. So, I feel like I'm doing that currently with the business that I'm in that they're great business. We have a great business model, but, and, I mean, I know this is, recorded, but I'm not saying anything negative about my group of people. I work with fantastic group of people. They're great. But they would be the first ones to admit that they are soccer professionals. They are former professional soccer players, who've played in international leagues, Bundesliga and La Liga and English Premier League. They are great football players, soccer players, but they really don't know as much about business, as they know about the soccer field. So I mean, it's like the chef who is going to start a restaurant. They know how to cook, but they're not necessarily managers. So that becomes difficult sometimes to find the skill set, for their HR side. And that's why I'm involved in a business, because I bring that. And so that can bring some competitive disadvantages. I mentioned this already. Diversity counts. I mean, in an entrepreneurial business, you get people, you hire people out of necessity, and so it would make sense that if you bring your own friends and your own social circles, your family members into business, then your business many times would not be as diverse, because we tend to hang around with similar people than we are ourselves. So sometimes you don't find the same sort of diversity, and compliance with affirmative action and those kinds of things, which, by the way, we have less than 20 employees. You don't really have to. Those laws don't impact you before you're a bigger company. But so it's just the necessity becomes more important than complying with all of those laws and guidelines in the beginning, and then you get there when you get bigger. So HR is very important in small businesses, because you gotta maintain positive performance and getting and keeping customers. So when you're thinking about HR needing to be in a strategic role and be involved in sort of the business operations in small business, it's probably more important than anywhere. I mean, the HR person has to know everything that is going on in a business, because they have to be super agile and super flexible with staffing and everything. So really, when they're looking to hire people, they have to look for people who can do multiple things, and everything is focused on getting and keeping customers. So in small businesses, everybody needs to do business development just to kind of keep things going. So it's you probably understand really well what I mean. So there's using internet, government, and other tools to support the HR effort. There are lots of tools out there, and I use this a lot in consulting companies, and send them to these tools that the government puts a lot of focus on trying to help small business owners and entrepreneurs. So there's Department of Labor, online e-laws advisor that gives you, free legal advice to, all of these matters. EEOC online tools are really, really good. And then OSHA online tools for small business for safety and security and those type of things. And, employment planning and recruiting, there are a lot of web-based recruiting tools. LinkedIn, we talked about this before, LinkedIn has become sort of the primary tool these days, because of the fact that it's inexpensive. So, internet recruiting has become a popular thing, but you kind of have to be careful with that too. Number one, many of these internet portals have become quite expensive, and they are certainly better than putting an ad in a newspaper, because nobody really reads newspapers anymore. But you have to do your homework and to understand who's reading what portals, and then also realize that internet recruiting will bring you a humongous large quantity of applicants. And if you only have one person, semi-professional person doing HR, you can become overwhelmed really quickly. If you put an ad on LinkedIn and you get 200 applicants on the first day, I mean, sometimes you look at, and I've applied to a lot of jobs through LinkedIn, because I'm always looking for better opportunities. I think that that's what professionals should be doing. And I've noticed when I looked, when you have a premier account with LinkedIn, you can look at your job posts. Look at how many of them got opened, and how many even looked at your resume. And I noticed that the jobs that I apply, roughly about 10 to 20% even had time to look at my resume. So the point is that as an applicant, you may be disappointed that you don't get any job offers, but the reality is that many of those companies are so small that they didn't have time to get to your application, and they already found somebody satisfactory to them in the first 10 that they looked, and they ignored the 190 that came after that because they didn't have time to look at them. So you didn't get a chance because they didn't even get time to look at your resume. So you didn't get really ignored. They didn't not like you. It's just they don't even know that you existed. And so that becomes kind of an issue, is that, you just don't have the manpower to do it right. There are lots of tests we talked about, and a lot of these are, ways that you can help your recruitment to kind of narrow, the number of applicants, but you don't have time to scan everybody. So you can do one personnel test, predictive index, and sometimes, don't use any internet or something, depending on what kind of business you have. I mean, sometimes the most obvious and best way is to put a sign in your door and say, help wanted. I mean, if you are hiring staff for your restaurant, for example, let's be honest, you're hiring people who live close to your restaurant. And so if you're putting a, ad on LinkedIn, you get people from all over, when really you want somebody who live right next to you. And so you put a help wanted ad on your door, you get those local people. So keep it local and in the industry. Don't go branding, anywhere else. Test online, for give kind of an online test to people, and there are a lot of small companies that offer these products these days that you can help screening, kind of like the first layer of interviewing, by having them to, answer sort of an online test before you even talk to them. Call your contacts, ask your friends and employees recommendations before you use social networking sites like LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and so try to use all kinds of free different ways to go out there, and social networking is good. That's where many companies start, but point is that you don't always have to pay for anything. You can just post in your own wall and on a Facebook or Twitter, and your friends, and ask your friends and contacts to reach out to anybody they know, to tell them that there is a so you can also do interview, send a recording kind of a thing. There's companies that like Interview Stream, that they record online video interviews for $30 to $60. So what you simply do is that you ask people to record a video, and you do a quick video, and you're asking people certain questions, and they answer it on the computer, and then you review those and you pick the best for an interview. So there are many ways to make your recruiting cheaper. Employment training, private vendors. There are a lot of in higher education or education in general, we use a lot of edX. There's a portal, edX, that offers all kinds of free courses, and so we select courses from there and recommend those to our employees. There's also Small Business Administration provides free videos and training that are very useful, and then National Association of Manufacturers for manufacturing companies. So the point is, exhaust all free resources before you go and pay big bucks for things. And that's the way it starts. That's the way, there's a lot of stuff out there. When you are doing your employment appraisals, and even online, even job analysis, you can use different examples from Oracle, Halogen, Salary.com. Salary.com helps you to determine local pay rates. So when you are doing your compensation planning, you can go and compare there. So you don't have to hire experts and specialists to do that. Own It Online, Department of Labor Statistics. You can download job descriptions, and you find something that works for you rather than starting your completely own. They've already done job analysis for these things, so why should you do your own? So again, taking shortcuts is good because that helps you to get on your feet. OSHA has a lot of free services for small employers, free on-site safety services for small businesses, services there, and SHARP program, where the OSHA certifies small businesses who have kind of achieved certain levels of safety awareness. So, so obviously, you know, there are some benefits of remaining small. That's something that many times when companies grow, they lose. They become a bigger organization. They lose that kind of more personal familiarity. And so being a small business, you can embrace that. You know, you can really take advantage of the fact that people, you know, you can work in a flexible hours because you basically have a group of friends. Me and my colleagues, you know, we talk to each other, you know, late in the evening, weekends, whatever. It doesn't matter. We don't have to stick to those hours because we are friends, you know, we are familiar with each other. And we don't have to be worried about, you know, having formality and formal meetings. We can just pick up a phone anytime and say, hey. So that flexibility is very advantageous. And that disappears when you become a larger company. You can't start doing that. So you can be informal, and that's really, really just, you know, and many people love that. That makes work fun when you're able to be that way. And you can have a simple, informal employee selection procedure. You know, when we hire people, you know, it's something that we are able to just kind of decide on between a couple of people. So, you know, again, a lot of benefits there. Business owners always pressed for time. And so they can use sort of a practical, streamlined employment interview process. And so basically you ask following questions. You ask questions about knowledge and experience. You know, what must the candidate do, you know to perform the job? What experience is necessary for the job, et cetera, et cetera. Then you ask about motivation. You know, what should the person like doing to enjoy this job? Is there anything the person should not dislike? You ask about the intellectual capacity, any particular specific intellectual aptitudes, math, mechanical, you know, or etc., and personality. So you kind of you know, focus on those mainstream kind of areas, and then you know, you organize an interview by having a plan. Ask about college experiences, work experiences, goals and ambitions, and military experiences, outside activities, and those kinds of things. So, you know, you don't have to, there are methods and ways to simplify what you are doing so that you don't have to go through these exhaustive, long procedures, and you can streamline and be a little bit faster. When you think about training, it's very important in small businesses to really focus on the bottom line. Obviously, there are tons of training things that would be beneficial. You can list any given time at 10 to 100 topics that would be beneficial for your staff and employees to learn. But you can't have them sitting in a training session all day long and paying for them for it. So, you know, you only really do training that you know, will impact the bottom line. Things that are legally required, you know, you have to do. Things that you know, are sort of safety issues that you cannot afford to risk, you know, you do those kind of training, and then on the job training, you know, make sure that people know how to do their jobs and keep the customers. That's what matters the most. So, you know, typically the training is very informal. You know, you ask somebody to shadow you. You know, one person, it takes over the training for one person and they do it in their own way. That can be actually good, you know, because sometimes that's the best way of doing it. In larger companies, that may be difficult to arrange. But yes, it's typically very mentorship, coaching oriented, informal training. So let me see what time is we. I'm kind of running fast today because I want to be able to give you your day back if we are, you know, are able to finish a little early. we can just, finish early because this is our last session. So, stop me anytime if you have any questions or any comments or thoughts, like always. Learning, informal learning, occurs kind of automatically and organically. People learn when they have something they need to learn, are motivated to learn it, and are given the opportunity to learn. There is this old story about manufacturing company, some sort of lumber company in Northeast, where the owner of the company went to a workshop conference and learned about flexible kind of a chaos theory, and learned about how you can set up an organizational structure organically so that nobody has job titles and everybody just kind of looks around and figures out what they have to learn and what they have to do and just go and do it. And so he went back to his organization and said, now we're going to have a celebration of the new organizational structure, and we're going to have a bonfire, and everybody's going to burn their business cards and their name tags. And we're going to start doing it in this kind of new creative way. And there was one secretary, who said, well, I can't do it. I don't know who I am without my title. So the owner said, well, you go and pick yourself a title then, because you're the only one who needs it. So from that day on that lady, she was called the Supreme Commander, because she gave herself a title of Supreme Commander. I don't know if the story is true, but it's one of those, stories that you hear about, example of organic chaos theory oriented organizational structures. So the point is that in small companies, things kind of happen organically, and people have to be kind of on their toes and kind of look around and say, what do I need to learn? And they just figure it out themselves. You have to have that kind of a entrepreneurial, informal kind of a personality to kind of be cool in that environment. Many times, small companies provide you really good work-life flexibility, because people work flexibly from wherever they can work. They don't necessarily have to set up 401k or 403b programs. They can just set up a simple IRA. It's inexpensive and simple. So they are, again, inexpensive ways to covering the benefits. But it just requires the owner or whoever is responsible for this to do a little homework and use those government sites and figure out ways to do it kind of inexpensively. Professional employer organizations, PEOs, human resource outsourcers, and employee staff and leasing firms are, again, some really, really good resources to go out there and find. And those are different, of course, in every industry. So these PEOs still help you to figure out what tasks to outsource, and they can even be co-employers of record. So sometimes outsourcing really makes a lot of sense. If you need to hire somebody, set up a call center, for example, for your sales. There are companies who've hired people from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, South Africa, many Philippines, many places in the world, and they've contracted group of people from around the world, trained them, and they are charging maybe $15 an hour, and selling, their services to clients here in US. And so if you would go and hire your own people and through the training and everything like that, you would end up paying way more than $15 an hour, where you can outsource somebody that way, and they already have a group and systems in place. So why do you want to use them? Well, I mean, the insurance and benefits are taking care of that PEO. There's no legal risk for you. It'll, obviously, it doesn't slow down your company's decision making, because they are doing it in their end. And data entry errors, again, if they are trained PEOs, that's something that they guarantee that there's no errors, and they practiced it, and they have a system in place. And so you may not, have that much of a competitive disadvantage when you're using outsourced company, because you're actually outsourcing the expertise to somebody who actually is in a business of doing them. But it's always dangerous to outsource HR processes, because you can have, yes, companies out there, like there's one company called personnel department. They're actually called personnel department. You can outsource all of your HR, but the problem is that, if you look at your HR as a strategic component of your business, you should never outsource your core practices, your core functions. And so outsourcing them may be convenient. You have those legal benefits, you have those, learning curve issues, and, you have a lot of benefits there. But you also do not get the security of strategic benefit of having those people part of your group and growing with them. And also, there's tax disadvantages. When you outsource, you pay to somebody else to do the services. When you hire people as employees, you have tax advantages. You can take, tax credits for your employees and those kinds of things. So it's not always, the best way. So, outsourcing or not to outsource really sort of depends on a lot of factors. This is just professional employee organization, a little bit, things to kind of keep in mind. You have to conduct needs analysis, review the services of those PEOs, and make sure that those PEOs are accredited. Again, don't hire somebody just because they're promising the moon. You want to make sure that they're a credible company. And Edward Deming always say that you do not choose your vendors by price alone. In other words, just because somebody offers cheap services doesn't mean that, they're the ones to hire. You want to look for quality, and it's better to pay a little bit more to somebody who does a quality job than the cheapest price for somebody who's going to, ruin the reputation of your company. So, look at all of those kind of things, understand how the employee benefits will be funded, make sure that there's compliance liabilities, that you are complying with the state laws and all of that. Review the service agreement very carefully, because there's always the small print somewhere there, and that can really cost you. And then check out the prospective staff. Do they seem to have expertise to deliver its promises and so forth? So, remember that many of these PEOs, they are also small businesses providing services. So, they may not have the best of the best experience, in some cases. So, it's all good if they have all of that, but you have to check them out and make sure. Like all the vendors, so many small businesses are inexperienced in these issues. They pay people to build their website. They build people. They hire people to do all kinds of different things, marketing things and everything for them. And they hire people who really are not good, and they just waste a lot of money. So doing your homework and making sure that you hire people who know what they're doing, just really important for small businesses, because you don't have money to waste. Big businesses have, people to make sure that you hire, good vendors, and you have experts, to do that. So they don't make these mistakes as often. So, how the firm delivers its services, get proof that payroll taxes and insurance premiums are being paid properly, so that if the PEO promises to, have all of those things verified, don't believe. Paperwork that is required to run a 5-person retail shop. Just that human resource system, is comprised of standard forms. You of course want to computerize it as much as possible, but if you don't have money for like complete HRIS system, then a lot of times you have to do it standardized forms and paperwork way, and doing things manually is time consuming. It's clunky. I don't know if that's even a word, but it's slow and cumbersome. And, of course, there's a lot of errors when you have to ask people to fill applications by hand and everything. So when you do HR manually, you very, very quickly, it becomes obvious how, you don't want to do it that way anymore. So the benefits of computerizing it become obvious, and then you start kind of trying to computerize them as you go, and adding different kinds of things that kind of work for you before you get to that point that you are able to digitize everything and make sure that your standardized personal forms are all, in order, customized for your needs, and so forth. You can also use direct mail catalog companies to produce certain forms and directing things for you, and there are legal compliance forms out there that you can companies that sell that stuff. So rather than creating your own forms and everything, find some ways. There's even for standard operating procedures, there's a company that sells a disk. You can download it too on a cloud. You pay a couple of $100, you download these templates and you can write your own SOPs on that. So sometimes, it makes sense to use kind of templates like that. These are just examples of forms that you need. And if you've never created these forms, it can be cumbersome. So makes sense to look at a list like this and then figure out places where you can download samples and templates of all of these forms. And in every case, you choose, you download few of them and choose what works for you the best, and then you customize it for your own needs and make sure, of course, that the different forms connect to other forms and all kind of are consistent. But again, there are a lot of forms. And when you do things manually, your personnel files become very thick. And that's why it becomes obvious why back in the days when there were no computers, personnel departments had all of these many filing cabinets because they had to store all of those paper forms. And now we don't need to do that anymore. And it becomes very obvious why computerized HR systems are so beneficial when all of this is stored on computer files and you don't have to have thick filing cabinets with all of this. But yeah, there are a lot of forms. There's a lot of paperwork in human resources. Also, automating those tasks. HRIS systems, they allow automatic systems where everything happens sort of onboarding happens semi-automatically. The employee can do and fill up the information on their home computer. Everything becomes so much easier. So you do want to automate those, and if you can afford it, buy one of those package systems that just provides all in a one software package. That improves your transaction processing time. And of course, like I just said, facilitates online self-processing. So point is that when you're starting a small business, try to get, into, computer automated HR processes as quickly as possible, because otherwise you're going to inundate it with forms and it becomes cumbersome for sure. There are vendors out there. This is just a list of some. You can recognize obviously some well-known companies, SAP, Oracle, those are well-known companies. Automated data process, business information technology, human resource microsystems, and Lawson software are all companies to kind of benchmark and check, some you probably recognize some of those. So yeah, because you have thumbs up. So yeah, those are just examples. There are many more, but those are the ones that I would start with. HR on the cloud, it's so handy these days because you don't have to have your own server space. You don't have to worry about your own computer equipment, but make sure that you hire a company that is secure, because when you have your HR data on the cloud out there, if there's a leak, now you are leaking private information of people and you can become legally liable. So again, when you're hiring a HRIS company, make sure that they have secure systems and you have secure processes in place to, how people access those systems, and so because, yeah, we talked about entire chapter of privacy and all of these legal issues. So you just have to be making sure. So like I said, this was a shorter chapter, and I wanted to get it done in an hour because I just wanted you guys to be able to have your start your holiday. It's unusual to have a class 2 days before Christmas. Most schools are closed during the Christmas holiday, but this is unique because you are international folks, and not all of you celebrate Christmas proper like here in US. So whatever you celebrate, I want to wish you very, very happy holiday season. Again, I wanted to wrap this in 1 hour because this is our last chapter, and everybody's in a holiday mood. So does anybody have any questions about anything, or any stories you want to tell, or anything you want to share about small business HR?
So, Professor, thank you so much for today's lecture. And I know it's unusual, but at the same time, I think it's been very beneficial talking about the HR issues and really learning HR more in depth. And I did get a chance to work in a small organization here in United States. It's very local to me in Long Island itself. And it was the same story there. There was no HR there. Actually, there was nobody to take care of the HR, and we were in the umbrella of another company, and they were taking care of the HR issues or anything coming up. So yes, I was trying to link, as you were talking, I was trying to link that experience to that organization. And yeah, it's always beneficial if we have somebody who have knowledge of depth knowledge of HR in such organizations. I think it's more helpful to really address any concerns or issues coming out of any employee. So thank you so much for sharing. And I think I'm looking forward to the exam and all the other assignments remaining. I think I'm not done with the HR, but thank you so much for today's lecture. And I'm looking forward to learn more. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And by the way, I just noticed that I didn't even share my screen. So, I guess everybody's just listening and not looking at the screen because nobody even noticed. So you have the slides, so it's not that, but I just realized that I didn't.
Yeah, I want to ask Tomi, but I'm thinking that maybe you're just talking. So I didn't ask that you don't have a screen.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I mean, it's,
But it's
let's
good.
not do this.
You're showing your handsome face.
Yeah.
For
I mean,
our last season.
Yeah, I just noticed that right now, but I don't know. See, goes to show how holiday mood I am. I was looking at it, my big screen over here, but I just realized that I had not done the share. So anyway, it's not. I mean, I was just talking about the topics from the slides, so the slides would not have helped that significantly. But that was unusual. I'm sorry. I'm blonde, so I
No,
mean,
that's
things
okay.
happen. Yeah, it's. I don't know. It's well, we're all people, right? Things happen. Nobody said anything, right? So you guys are so polite, you let me embarrass myself.
I think this happened in the last to last class as well. But I think I really appreciate your speaking is so engaging. We didn't feel that we need to look at the screen, because when you are talking and we are thinking, what has been happening in various organizations we worked in, it's like it's that thought process really you didn't let us ask you that if you're sharing or not sharing. I think it's very
Yeah.
engaging. Thank you.
Well, and actually that brings a very, very good point. And obviously I did not share, and intentionally I that wasn't, I just sometimes in a computer you forget to push a button. But we get so used to using PowerPoint that in reality, go ahead, somebody saying something. So I was just saying that in reality, we should sometimes consider not using PowerPoint, because what happens a lot is that when we use PowerPoint, people focus on reading the PowerPoint and they forget to listen to you, because it's difficult for people to do both, listen and read. And
Right,
also
you're right. Yes.
Yeah, it's
Like when you're walking the dog, you just listen and
yeah.
while walking.
Yeah, I mean, there is there is a saying, they call it death by PowerPoint, because many students, they are sitting in classrooms and they are so bored, professors just reading straight from PowerPoints. And, they really emphasize on that, we overuse PowerPoint, we over rely on PowerPoint slides. And sometimes, it's, and I try as much as possible to not sound like I'm reading straight from PowerPoint slides, so that it sounds like a believable, that I'm actually, talking about it. But some people, they just read the PowerPoint slides, and it's horrible to listen. So thank you for understanding that I forgot to completely put the slides out there. But you all have the slides, so it's not, anything. Like I say, the chapter 18, and if I did this earlier, I apologize, guys. You should have told me. I'm getting old, these things happen. But yeah, this chapter, read it in your convenience if you are involved in small business, but if not, it doesn't really apply to you. This is not in the final exam. I did not include anything from chapter 18. I chose to focus on chapter 17 because it's, the most important chapter for you. So again, if you have any questions, you know where to find me. I'm a little sad that this is our last, time, because honestly, you're a very awesome group of people. I'm very honored to be able to hang out with you every Saturday morning, for this fall, to getting to know you a little bit. It's great to know that you're listening. Your academic work is really great, and I'm saying this from experience. I worked for other international universities where the quality of work and people's English proficiency alone has been way below what your level is. So I'm very positively. This is first class I'm teaching for Windsor, and I'm very positively surprised by your high quality, and like I said, I've made sure that I've mentioned this to Mr. Amir Abbas, the CEO. I've talked to him several times, and I just said how impressed I am with you guys. So well done, good job. Turn in all your work, and I'll grade them. And happy holidays, and good luck in your 2024 and your future courses. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Tomi.
Bye.
Wishing you a joyous holiday season.
Thank you. Bye.
Holidays. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.